Before the sun learned to burn or the moon found its path through the velvet dark, there was only the infinite water and the eternal blue sky. Can you imagine it? Truly? A world without a horizon, where the silence was so heavy in that vast, shimmering emptiness, Kök Tengri, the uncreated, the timeless, the great sky, was the only breath in the void. He did not simply exist. He was the existence itself. But even a god of infinite reach desires to see his reflection. And so began the story that has echoed through the Altai Mountains and across the wind-swept Orkhon. It is a story of a pride so deep it formed the underworld, and a love so vast it gave birth to the stars. The great silence was first broken. From the mind of the eternal sky came Kayra Khan, the first and highest of the gods, the great father of the universe. He looked upon the endless waters and saw a reflection that was not his own. This was Erlik, the first creation, a companion born of the deep. For a time, they moved together through the primordial mists, like two shadows across a sea of glass. But Erlik was not content with the grace he was given. Within him, a seed of cold desire began to sprout. He wanted a kingdom that he could call his own, a realm where his word was the only law. Kayra Khan, sensing the growing darkness in Erlik's heart, but still moved by the bond Go down, he said, his voice a roll of thunder that smoothed the waves. Go down into the depths and bring me the sacred clay from the bottom of the world. Erlik dove, his body cutting through the freezing blackness of the primordial ocean. He reached the bottom and filled his hands with the mud of creation. But as he swam back toward the light, a treacherous thought gripped him. He took a small piece of that divine earth and hid it in his mouth, thinking that when Kayra Khan built the world, Erlik would use his secret portion to create a world of his own. When Erlik surfaced and gave the clay to Kayra Khan, the Great Father scattered it across the waters. As if by magic, the earth began to swell and grow, pushing back the sea to reveal the rugged beauty of the steppe and the towering peaks of the Altai. But as the world expanded, so did it grew larger and larger, swelling his cheeks, choking his breath until he was forced to spit it out in a fit of agonizing coughs. Where that tainted clay fell, the earth was not flat and fertile. It grew into jagged, barren mountains and swampy, treacherous bogs. Kayra Khan looked upon these scars on his new creation and sighed. You have sought to create in secret, Erlik, he said, his eyes filled. And so your creations shall always be crooked, and your heart shall always be heavy. To bring balance to this new world, Kayra Khan birthed 3 sons who would champion the light. First was Ulgan, the golden god of goodness and abundance, whose laughter was the morning sun and whose hands crafted the first flowers. Then came Kızagan Khan, the master of wisdom and the unerring archer, who could shoot a lie out of a man's heart from 1,000 paces. And finally, there was Kızagan Khan, the fierce warrior of the red camel, who gave men the strength to survive the iron winters of the north. They were the eras, the benevolent ones, who resided in the upper world on the 16th floor of the sky, where the air is pure and the light never fades. Ulgan, looking down at the silent, empty world his father had, he descended to the middle world, the earth water we call Yer Sub, and began to craft. From the yellow earth and the glint of gold, he fashioned the first man, Turungai, and the first woman, Aj. He gave them spirits of fire and bodies of clay. But most importantly, he whispered into their ears the secret of the cut, the divine life force that connects every He placed them in the shadow of the great world tree, the Ulukayan, whose roots reached deep into the belly of the earth and whose highest branches cradled the stars. But Erlik, watching from the shadows of his jagged mountains, was consumed by a jealousy that burned like black ice. He saw the beauty of the humans and the warmth of the sun, and loathed it. He crept into Ulgan's garden and tempted the first humans, teaching them the hollow promises of pride and the bitter taste of betrayal. When Ulgan discovered the corruption, his wrath was like a summer storm. He turned to Erlik, his brother in spirit, but now his enemy in soul. "You have sought to dim the light I have given them," Ulgan roared. "If you love the darkness so much, you shall rule it until the end of time." With a blow that shook the foundations of the three realms, Erlik was cast down. He fell through the layers of the earth, past the roots of the world tree, until he hit the floor of the lower world. There, in a palace of copper and bone, he took for himself the symbols of his fall, the black horse and the heavy iron mace, and swore that for every soul Ulgan brought into the light, he would eventually claim one for the dark. This is why even today our elders say that life is a delicate dance between the brothers. We walk under Ulgan's sun, but we must always respect the shadows that Erlik commands. Yet, life on the steppe was harsh and the humans were often lost. They forgot the face of the sky and began to fear the night. Seeing this, the mother goddess, Umay Ana, descended. She did not come with thunder or silver arrows, but with the softness of a mother's touch. She is the protector of the hearth, the one who watches over the silver-haired grandmothers and the newborn lambs. It was Umay Ana who taught us that the earth itself is alive, that every river has a guardian spirit, every mountain a soul. She whispered to the women of the tribes that the earth is not something. She is the reason we tie ribbons to the sacred trees, a bridge of prayer between our world and the heavens. The greatest test of our people came during the era of the Great Darkness, when a terrible war wiped out all but one child of the ancient tribes. This boy, broken and bleeding, was found by a silver-furred she-wolf named Asina. She did not devour him. Instead, she fed him the milk of the wild and carried him to a hidden valley deep within the Altai Mountains. There, protected by the high peaks, she birthed 10 half-human, half-wolf sons who would become the ancestors of the Ashina clan, the founders of the Bozkurt Khaganate. This wolf blood, it is why our Khagans, the great kings like Bilge and Kultigan, would stand before the Orkhon inscriptions and declare that they were Tengri-born and Tengri-like. They knew that their power, their cut, was a gift from the sky, held only as long as they remained just and brave. I want you to think about the Orkhon inscriptions for a moment. Imagine those massive stone pillars standing in the desolate valley, the ancient letters carved deep into the rock by hands that have been dust for 12 centuries. The inscriptions tell us that when the blue sky above and the dark earth below were created, between them were created the children of men. It is a reminder that we are the bridge. We are the ones who stand between the infinite light of Ulgan and the deep mysteries of Erlik. The Turkic people didn't just see the sky as a ceiling. They saw it as a living testament to destiny. Success was not a matter of luck. It was the presence of Kut. Failure was not a tragedy. It was the withdrawal of the sky's favor. This belief shaped the very way the nomadic tribes lived. They did not build stone cities that would eventually crumble. They built a culture of the spirit. They moved with the wind because the wind was the breath of the gods. They treated the white horse as a sacred brother because it was the preferred sacrifice of Ulgan. They looked at the mountains and saw the spiritual center of the world, Otuken, a place where the barrier between it was a world where nature was not a resource, but a sanctuary. As the centuries turned into millennia, the world changed. The great Khaganates fell, and the songs of the shamans began to blend with the calls to prayer of new religions. But the old gods never truly left the steppe. They just changed their names. You can still see the shadow of Tengri in the way a father looks at the sky before a harvest, or in the way a traveler leaves a stone on an... You can see Umay Ana in the protective blue eye of the Nazar hanging over a child's cradle. The Bozkurt still howls in the heart. The lessons of the ancient Turkic myths are not just stories for the campfire. They are truths that resonate in our modern world, perhaps now more than ever. They teach us that pride, like Erlik's hidden clay, will always... They teach us that leadership is a divine trust, a cut that can be lost the moment we forget the people we serve. And they remind us that we are part of a vast, interconnected cosmos, that the same rhythm that moves the stars moves through our own veins. In our busy lives of concrete and screens, we often forget to look up. We forget the eternal blue sky that watched over the first note. But the myth reminds us that no matter how far we wander, we are still the protectors of the middle world, tasked with keeping the balance between the light. The ancient Turkic spirit is one of resilience, of a people who could survive the harshest winters when you see a wolf silhouetted against a rising moon, or when you feel the sudden bracing chill of a mountain wind, remember the Altai. Remember the world tree, whose branches touch the heavens, and the gods of the first Turks haven't retired to the pages of history. They live on in the courage to face an unknown horizon and the wisdom to honor the ground beneath our feet. They remind us that while empires fall and languages change, the human spirit is, like Kök Tengri himself, eternal and infinite. The ancient stories still speak to us, whispering through They tell us that we are part of something larger than ourselves, a grand epic that subscribe to hear more legends from the dawn of civilization. Tell us in the comments,